Have you ever spoken to someone and it seemed like they were more concerned with being technically correct rather than being correct on spirit?
Samantha says, import third world, get third world. Well, these are not imports. These are human beings. But if you're referring to, there being a farmer's market, that's kind of a first world thing.
This is a phenomenon which is called the midwit. This is someone that is about average of the IQ bell curve, and they tend to think that they're way above everybody else in terms of their intellect. Whereas someone with a low IQ kind of knows they're kind of dumb and simple. Someone with a high IQ kind of gets that they're smart, but there's probably smarter people than them. It's the midwits, this kind of John Oliver, smarmy, sarcastic, I know it all kind of guy, are the people that actually piss me off. And I'm gonna go through how to detect a midwit, the kind of traps and bullshit that you hear from midwits quite often. Not everybody middle of the IQ bell curve is a midwit. A midwit is someone that wants the illusion of being an intellectual and kind of copies what they think a smart person would say or would do, rather than actually being smart. And the quickest way to identify a midwit is to make a generalization. Just say a general statement about something, and sure as the sun will rise, a midwit will say, actually, not all people are like that. Not everybody in this group is like that. If you talk about how men are stronger than women, they'll bring up Ronda Rousey or some crazy female powerlifter and see, as if that disproves your theory. It's as if you said every single man on planet Earth is stronger than every single woman on planet Earth. And that's just obviously not what you're getting at. They really do think if they bring up a exception to this trend, this rule, they've somehow won the argument. They've somehow, debunked you, right? And it's for this reason that talking to these people is fucking exhausting. We make generalizations to communicate information more efficiently and quickly. For example, if I say summers are hot or winters are cold, you know that I don't mean literally every single summer day is going to be hotter and every winter day is going to be cold. There's going to be some exceptions, right? But generally, this is just how we say it. And it's quicker just to say winter is cold rather than having a laundry list of caveats and exceptions to this. We're just trying to communicate information quickly here, right? Now, if you do this with a midwit in the room, they'll jump into action and bring up these exceptions, these rare cases where there was in 1997 there was a winter day that was 27 degrees. That just totally invalidates the spirit of what you're saying. This is very common in politics. It's just a way to bog down conversations with trivial details and bullshit rather than actually discussing, the core of the issue. They want to get it to pedantic bullshit just to basically stop a real conversation from happening. And this is really at the core of the midwit. They are obsessed with being correct by bullshit technicalities rather than actually addressing the spirit of the thing. A good example that happened relatively recently was when Trump was talking to I think the Prime Minister of South Africa, and he was showing the slideshow to him, and he showed a picture in the slideshow of these, it was these crosses representing a white South African farmer that was killed, right? And he made the technical error of saying that these were gravestones or grave sites, rather than saying that they were just a totem of someone that died, right? And of course, the midwits in legacy media were going crazy about this. Oh, look at this. Look how uninformed Donald Trump is. Look at how he made this technical mistake. It's fucking ridiculous. We're talking about the fucking same thing. Whether it's a gravestone or a markation of someone that died doesn't fucking matter. This is a technical detail. The spirit of it is that these people have been killed. That's bad. That's the focus of the conversation here. But no, they want to take it to technical, trivial details that don't fucking matter. And I think the midwit kind of comes from this kind of teacher's pet mentality where, these people have been rewarded for being technically correct and, following orders and getting good grades. This is kind of their thing, right? And this kind of leads me on to some errors in behavior that different IQ groups tend to exhibit. The most easily understood error of someone in an IQ group are people with a low IQ. They tend to be more at risk for violent crimes. I believe violent crime worldwide peaks at around an 85 IQ. So that's kind of like their danger, right? And on the other hand, people with a high IQ, they tend to have a problem with being too neurotic, right? They tend to have a problem with like just anxiety and like concerning themselves too much with existential problems. Like this is kind of this is the fault of the high IQ person, to the point where, you know, they're so neurotic that it kind of paralyzes them into doing stuff, right? Now, the fatal flaw of someone that is middle IQ is conformity. Conformity is like the real danger of being a middle IQ person, right? Since I think if you're like average IQ, you are smart enough to follow orders well. You can memorize stuff that people in authority tell you a lot better than someone that's a dimwit, right? But you're not smart enough to have critical thinking where you can basically think through things that are incorrect that you are told. Does that make sense? And yeah, conformity with people that are around this IQ bracket is kind of nuts. Japan has this like crazy, like ridiculous drinking culture where, you know, there's like these male businessmen that go out, you know, on like the weekend. And there's like this weird like dynamic where people want to fit in with the group of men around them. So they end up drinking an absurd amount of alcohol to the point where they get alcohol poisoning, just to keep up with the other guy that's thinking the same thing, that doesn't really want to drink that much, but was also trying to drink a lot to impress the guy that doesn't want to drink that much either. So it's like this, you know, you're kind of fucking yourselves over by this level of conformity. Whereas if there was like a low IQ person there, you could be like, oh, nah, this is bullshit. I don't want to do this. Why am I drinking so much? And a high IQ person can like articulate why this isn't a good idea, what's going on, and the social dynamics and yada yada. But you know, if you're kind of middle IQ, like this is kind of a danger for you, right? Like just to be, you know, way too conformist, do things that don't make any fucking sense, that a dumb person and smart person could say is a bad idea. And a funny thing happens, this phenomenon where people that are low IQ and high IQ often come to similar conclusions. A very good example of this is the need to breed, right? Like the, you know, reproduction rates, right? Like that is a concern for people that are low IQ and high IQ. Like I could go to someone that is living in a cave that can't even read. You couldn't even teach him to read. And I could explain to him why having 2 or more kids is important, because, you know, you want your genetics to continue and your worldview and ideology to continue throughout generations, right? Like someone that is low IQ is going to understand that. You know, this guy in the cave is going to nod his head at that. And if I tell this to someone that is high IQ, like a real intellectual, like he'll totally get it as well, right? The only people that have talked themselves into not reproducing are midwits. These are the only people that have done the mental gymnastics to come to the conclusion that they shouldn't have kids because of, you know, what they've been told, like global warming, that the world's going to end in like 12 years, or there's problems with AI and all these social problems, so I shouldn't have kids. They've done all these mental gymnastics to come to this conclusion that is just totally obviously bullshit from someone that is low IQ and high IQ. Like they both come to that conclusion that, having kids is kind of fucking important. The only people that, you know, have talked themselves out of this is this middle of the road, like college educated, soy-lennial type of person, right? They're the only people that don't seem to understand what a literal caveman could understand. People that have a low IQ kind of instinctually get truths that an intellectual would understand and be able to, you know, explain in a more fluent way. But like oftentimes low IQ people kind of get when something's not quite right. Like, the trust in the media, right? You know, a low IQ person can like instinctually get that he is being gaslit by the media, the legacy media. He may not be able to articulate why and how this is happening, as well as someone that is like a true intellectual, but the low IQ person's on the right track. I think conspiracy theories are a pretty good example of this, right? The only people that thought that nothing fishy was going on during the pandemic were midwits. They were the only people that thought nothing fishy was going on. Like, if you just think through this, right, it's kind of obvious that the pandemic was an excuse for the elites to siphon more money from people in like the middle and lower classes, right? I think this is kind of obvious, and you don't really need to go into conspiracies to see this. You can kind of just look at the graph, right, and look at the wealth gap, but also just look at things with your own fucking eyes. Remember during the pandemic how all of these like small businesses were closed, right? Like every street, they were all closed up. Every mom and pop's shop was closed. And yet Walmart was still open. All of these big retail corporations, they were continuing on. It's only the small businesses that, for whatever reason, couldn't get past the regulation. It's not really a conspiracy if you can kind of see what's happening with your own fucking eyes, right? Like, someone that is low IQ is going to get that. Someone with a high IQ is going to get that. It's only the midwits that are going to argue against that. It's only the midwits that are going to like try and argue about some technicality rather than just accepting what they see with their own fucking eyes. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.